Okay, it's 1 a.m. in Fort Worth, Texas. I was just sending an email to my son, and uh, he mentioned that he had found a religion that he is, going to a church that he's going to, which kind of surprised me. Uh, that's not my son that lives here, by the way. Um, I was kind of surprised, and I actually did. This is sort of I finally just got around to. He didn't just send me this message; it was a while back. But I just got around to finally answering him and telling him a story. um, um, I'm trying to think here in my mind if I want to tell you about the murder that took place at Unity Village, which is the headquarters of Unity Church in Lee Summit, Missouri, back years ago. And I'd been sent out there I was working full-time hospital security. I didn't intend to tell you this part. I'd been working hospital security. I was working hospital security for years, 30 years altogether. And during quite a few of those years, I worked contract security for a lot less money, but I'd work 2 days a week. And as I worked, you know, my 5 day a week job, and then I worked 2 days on my days off uh, for Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo, and whatever. And I was sent by, I think it was Pinkerton, out to Unity Village, uh, which is a nice small place, but it's a city. Well, I mean, not a city. Well, it's a city, I guess. It has a uh, police department, and I was sent out there by a contract guard agency to be a Unity Village police officer 2 nights a week. And then there was another guy out there who worked. He was sent out there by Pinkerton, and he worked out there 5 days a week. Well, actually, nights. We worked nights. They had Unity Village police officers, but I don't think that uh, they had uh, one or two inside their business building or whatever, where they got mail and donations and things like that. And I don't think they had. I don't think they're. Maybe they did. They probably had somebody on the day shift that was a Unity Village police officer. Actually, well, we were actually police officers when we went out there. Uh, I after they broke me in, that was the thing. The guy out there wanted to work and had been working 7 nights a week. He didn't want anybody else to work. He wanted to work for Unity Village, for them directly, and he he just so everybody and they told me Pinkerton before I went out there. They said, well, this guy, he's working out there, and everybody we send out there, he says is no good or does this or If I'd have been smart, I would have just said, send me someplace else. But they thought that I could, because of my background, which was pretty good, that maybe this would be successful this time. Well, it wasn't. I was sent out there and told to meet him at such and such a time and such a place. I got there and he wasn't there. He knew he was supposed to be there. He didn't have any calls. I knew he didn't have any calls because then it was crystal, scanners. I had a pocket Radio Shack had to have the crystal cut made because the Radio Shack said, they had the Kansas City, Missouri Police and Fire and all those, but they didn't have a Unity Village. But so I had a crystal in there, so I knew that he didn't get anyway. So the next time I went out, I located him or whatever. But the next time I went out, he was supposed to be there at a certain time to meet me, and he wasn't. And so I went and found him again. And he said, "Oh, don't ever do this again." And I said, "Do what again?" Don't come and find me. And I didn't say, "Well, you fucking asshole, you're spying." I didn't. I just said I knew what was going on. That he wanted to work there full time, and in hopes that he was going to become a Unity Village police officer rather than being a Unity Village, being sent out and being a unit when he was there, when I was there. So I mean, so I knew he lied, and I don't like people that lie. And now when he was orientating me, well, he wasn't orientating me. I would be in the car with him, and he would drive through the place. I have no idea what he didn't show me. I have no idea what he didn't tell me. But when I was with him, he would pull up at a building that he needed to check or go in and make himself seen so he could talk to somebody that's might help him. The manager of the vegetarian diet place or whatever it was. And he told me, "You stay in the car." And I'd be sitting in the car and crack the window down a little bit, and there'd be a guy that would come out with him or something, and I'd hear the guy say, "Oh, who's that? Is that the new officer who's going to be out here on your days off or whatever?" And he said, "No." I mean, that's what. So, now the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's not actually the reason. I got sidetracked. Unity Village. Nice village. Their religion is it's not a bad religion for a religion. I'm not religious really. I mean, I was born and raised a Catholic, baptism, Holy Communion, confirmation. I mean, all, went through all the steps. Went to a Catholic grade schools, went to Catholic high school, so but I parted ways pretty much because of politics, not because, I was kind of hurt to find out later all these cute boys were being molested or something by Catholic priests because I thought I was a cute boy, and I wasn't molested or anything else. So that kind of hurt my feelings. Kidding, of course. My thing was with the political thing later on when the bishops, the princes of the church, the bishop has a fantastic house in the best part of the greater Kansas City area or whatever city it's in, They live in a mansion, they have servants, they have the whole thing. Okay. Anyway, so I was sent out there by Pinkerton to work on this guy, and I knew I should have just gone right back to the company and said, this, of course they knew that, okay, this asshole out here isn't showing me anything, isn't telling me anything, he's lying to me and whatever, but I didn't. It was just a part-time job. I had a full-time security job at a hospital, and I just wanted extra money for my wife and kids, and so I was working 2 days a week. So I didn't. I just waited, and then of course I got called by Pinkerton. They said, "We're going to send you someplace else." And I could have said, "What did the asshole say?" But I didn't. And I just, okay. And they sent me someplace else to work. And surely by then they should have known that, that. Anyway, what's interesting is shortly after I was no longer going out there, now keep in mind, they actually had a police department, and when the Pinkerton guards were sent out there, we were police officers for Unity Village. We had a police car with red lights and siren, a radio that could, not much point talking to, we didn't have a dispatcher. I mean, there was switchboard operator, but we could also switch to the Lee Summit Police Department or some other police department frequency if we, if we needed to or something. But anyway, I was no longer working out there, and it's a good thing that I wasn't, because not long after I was yanked out of there, there was the Unity Village was hiring a guy, and it's been a long time, a guy to be in charge of the city's utilities, the electric and the water and all this type of stuff. And there was a guy who wanted that job and applied for that job, and that guy didn't get the job. So I would have been working on this night because it was a weekend night. If I was still there, I would have been working. But anyway, I wasn't. This other guy was, who did know the whole thing but wouldn't share it with anybody else. He saw a car parked where it really shouldn't have been parked. I would not have known that, and he may have known who the car belonged to. I would have just watched it. I probably would have just watched it, or, made my rounds, and because I didn't know that, I wouldn't have known that much about anything. So anyway, this officer, somebody came out and got in the car, and I think he probably knew who that was, because I think that was the guy who worked at Unity Village and who applied for that job that this guy got. And I'm guessing that everybody knew that this guy was really fucking pissed that he didn't get the job. And so anyway, I don't think the police officer heard a gunshot. Maybe he did, the guy I'm telling you about. But anyway, when the guy came out and jumped in his car, the Unity Village police officer took off after him, lights and siren, and got on the radio, I'm sure, and called, Lee Summit Police Department, because as soon as you pulled out of Unity Village, which was pretty damn small, you were in Lee Summit, Missouri. And so he started chasing the guy, and Lee Summit joined in or whatever, and the guy crashed his car, the guy being chased. And so they took that guy to the hospital because he was hurt, and then they found a gun. I don't think it was in the car. I think the car was crashed up so bad that it was laying outside the car, and they found the gun that had just been fired. And anyway, I was glad that things worked out the way, because I wouldn't have performed well under that, because I didn't know anything. I knew how to use the radio and the lights and the siren, but I wouldn't have thought anything about a car being parked there. If the guy had come out, got in his car and left, I probably would have assumed that he was an employee or whatever, and I probably would have driven over and checked to make sure the doors were locked or something, so that was a good thing. But what I wanted to tell you about was the Greenpeace party. And I wish I could remember. I could if I went back and did some looking or whatever, but I was interested in the Greenpeace party. No, I don't think wasn't Greenpeace. I think it was just the Green Party. I can't remember now. Been a long time. So I went, and Unity, not there at the Unity Village, but in Kansas City, because they had, Unity churches. And if I have time, I'll have time, I think. I'll tell you about, okay, and be prepared to condemn me, because I'm sure I'm going to say something inappropriate, and you're going to misjudge me. But that has to do with Trinity Lutheran Hospital, and I went in one day. But back to the party, the Green Party. And the election was coming up in Kansas City, Missouri. And I thought, well, I'll join the Green Party. I've been a Democrat in my entire life. But I thought, maybe the Green Party would be better, more fits, my... So I went there, and the Green... the Unity churches, from what I've seen, have been very open, and this one here that I went to, not here in Fort Worth, but in Kansas City, Missouri, and I only went there one time. That was to join the Green Party. And they were welcome to, they welcomed everybody in. And no real dogma. They just looked to me like they picked the best parts, of the Bible and the best parts of other religions, the best parts. Yeah. And put those in, which is a great idea. That's a great way to have a church, I think, So anyway, I went there, and I didn't know that they were getting ready for the Kansas City, elections. And I went there, and I went in and everything. And so then they start talking about, okay, they're talking among themselves. They all knew each other. They were all friendly with each other. Now, there might have been a few other people. Maybe I wasn't the only, but as far as I knew, I was the only new person there. And so then they were talking, and they said, okay, so-and-so is going to be running for alderman in this such and such a district, and so-and-so is going to be running for, whatever. And then so-and-so is going to be running for this position. And then, of course, so-and-so, and they all knew his name, and he's going to be running for mayor. And they all applauded, oh, wonderful, wonderful, oh, great. And then he got up. Okay, I guess you can also, you're wrong, but go ahead. You can, he got up and was speaking in his gay voice and with his gay mannerisms and with everything else. And I was sitting there thinking, what? And I think, though, several people said, he's going to be great, and we're also, we'll be getting the gay support, because, he's known to the gay community and all that kind of, stuff. And so then they're all, oh, this is wonderful and everything. And I said, I forget exactly what I said. Okay, I'm new here. I just came, because I think the Green Party is going to be a great, great party, and I think I should be in it. I want to join. But I said, I'm new here, and I don't know any of you, but I'd like to say a few things. Go ahead, what's your name? Jim Howard, okay, go ahead. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said something, to this effect. Everybody seems to really admire, whatever the guy's name was, let's say Bill Smith. Everybody here seems to, really respect Mr. Smith here. And you undoubtedly are, he's got the vote of confidence, and you've decided that he's going to be running, for mayor here in Kansas City, Missouri. And I said, something to the effect of, is that really a good idea? Because, he's going to get some gay votes, and he's going to get, all of you people are going to vote for him, but that's not enough to make a dent. No way. Oh, they were like, oh yeah, we're going to win. There's a backing and all that kind. I said, no, there's not. And I said, I don't think you'll even get enough votes that it'll even register, that it won't, it won't even show up. Nobody will even know that you're running. I said, and they just they didn't throw me out or anything, but it was like, I sat back down and waited for the thing to end because I didn't want to slink. Yes. I wanted to walk out with everybody else. I didn't want to be like, get up and then as I went out, they'd have said, that fucking asshole, that, what do they call somebody that's homophobic or whatever, So I just waited and went out with everybody else. When the election took place there in Kansas City, Missouri, I got the newspaper, and I looked, Democrats, X number of votes, Republicans, X number of votes. I don't know if there was another party in there or not, but the Green Party was not in there. I'm sure they got some votes, but they didn't get enough to even be listed. I looked all the way through. I went back through it. I thought, surely they're going to list, how many votes they got. They didn't get any. Well, they didn't get enough to be listed. Okay, I'm moving right along. So this next thing, I really shouldn't say this, but why not? Come on, you know you want it. Actually, you don't if you're gay or whatever. Like I said, this Green Unity Village Church there in the Plaza area, kind of there was a lot of gay people in that area. The hospital I worked at, Trinity Lutheran Hospital, for 5.5 years, was in that area, and quite a few of our employees, were gay. In fact, in security, I was the day shift. Well, I was second shift supervisor for several years, and then I ended up day shift supervisor for a few years or whatever. In security, there was one security officer that was gay. I mean, now these are that I know of, there was one security officer that was gay. Nice guy, Richard. And and I was in charge of 7 parking lot attendants. There was a gay, and he didn't want anybody to know, but he did let me know. I mean, he didn't have to let me know. He let me know. There was a Lutheran priest who was from Chicago, and he had a big church out there that was successful, a Lutheran church, him and his wife. And he was gay. And the church knew that he was gay. And his wife was a lesbian. And I don't know if the church knew about that. He didn't talk very much about any of that, but he did a little bit to me. And he didn't really talk to anybody else. Well, I don't know if I want to go into. I didn't intend to go in that area, but intended to go in this other area. That's what originally got me. And so anyway, I'm coming into. They had gays met at the Unity Church in that area, and I came in. I think I was working second shift then, supervisor on the second shift. And I came in, they'd been having a church service there for lesbians. And I came in, and there was a bunch of them there because I feel sorry for I'm not sure how many, 2 or 3 guys who decided to rob them at the church. I felt sorry for those guys. I don't know what happened to them, but I imagine they took quite a fucking beating. I came into work, and it was like, Jesus Christ, what, of course I didn't say that in front of, Jesus Christ, what are these people? What's going on here? What's going on, Finally, I had to time in, do that kind of stuff, and then I was on duty, And then I asked a nurse, ER nurse or somebody like that, I said, I must have been like 15 or 20 of them. I guess they all decided, they're pack people or something. And they weren't all beat up, and I think maybe a couple of them were punched or something or other, I think I'd have liked to see what happened to the guys that decided to, rob them. So anyway, it didn't seem as funny as I thought it would be. But, yeah, it wasn't. Anyway, I guess I said enough probably to get a bunch of hate post. I got to mention this because it just fits in so much. I've told you about the director of security at Trinity and how he racist. against homosexuals. I mean, just everything. Retired military. And I've told you some stories about him that I don't think you're really interested in. But because it was, I've mentioned this before, so I'll mention it again, but I won't dwell on it. Donald Trump is a fucking idiot. I mean, I can't believe how stupid Donald Trump is. And Donald Trump is Donald Trump. Okay, at this hospital, the director of security was, super racist, and he was smart, much smarter than I was. There was no question about that. I had to do 4 grievances against him, and I won all of them. And he was just, but there were things that he did, and I could not understand. Why did he brag so much about himself? And why did he build himself up, and why did he do these various things? If I had known, if I didn't know till, Trump was being diagnosed, by people who, on YouTube and places who were saying, well, I've never treated, I've never treated President Trump, but here's what's wrong with him. And I think there were books that have come out on the subject, of what's wrong with him. And then here it is, like I was in the 70s. I was working for Trinity Lutheran Hospital, and this guy was director of security. And so it was all these years later when Donald Trump is elected, and I'm, my God, he's an idiot. But this director of security worked, he was smart, but he made unbelievable mistakes. I've told you about some of them. The hospital was on fire. A hospital was on fire. Not the first time. We had small fires and things, but big time. The hospital was on fire, and I smelled smoke. And I ran into a plant operations guy, and I said, I smell smoke. And he says, I do too. And I unlocked the door over on this side, no smoke. He unlocked the door on the other side of the hall, and fire and smoke came out. And I've told you about this, so I'm not going to go into great detail. But, I took the radio, Dr. Red, emergency Dr. Red, second floor telephone equipment room, emergency Dr. Red's, and then the operator, she was calling the fire department, but then I also immediately, right there, I pulled the fire alarm, which shuts down all the air handlers in the hospital, and which also rings into the, the fire department, shuts all the fire doors automatically. I did, and I couldn't get in to fight the fire, and the maintenance, because of there was a door, and then coming out, wasn't room for both of us, so he was fighting it with the fire extinguisher. And I knew, because I did my job, I knew where the fire department was. I knew how many units respond to the hospital. I knew where those units would come. And after a little bit of time, no firemen with me. So I called out, let me back up a little bit. Okay, the director of security says, oh, Jim, no, the fire's up here on the third floor. And I won't go through the whole thing. No, sir, the fire's on the second floor, heavy flames and smoke here on the second floor. It's in the telephone equipment room. And then he comes back on the radio. No, it's outside the gift shop here on the third floor. There's a little bit of smoke coming out from underneath it, where they put the flowers in it to keep it cold, so people would buy the flowers at the volunteers gift shop. And I come back again, no, Mr. Ross, it's here, And he says, I said, there's no firemen here, fire department, here yet. And he says, oh, I've got them up here. I've stopped them up here. And I said, send them down here. And he's, no, the fire's up here. And then I just took my radio and I called out to the outside. I was in charge of the parking lot attendants, and I called out there. I said, "Do you have firemen out there?" And the guy, "Yeah, Jim, sure, got him out here." I said, "Bring," and I said, bring. He knew where to bring him, but I said, bring him through the dock door, over by the intensive care unit, right there. Uh, that's where the fire is. And he said it, so he brought him in. Anyway, I got a nice write-up from the director of security, for doing a great job or whatever. But he did stuff like that. He ran when he shouldn't run. He just did. I mean, the director of security would, and he just. Anyway, I've told you stories about him. So, but I mean, Donald Trump has this mental problem. Mr. Ross is now, dead. He had the same type of condition, except he was smart, but made bad decisions. If I had known about the mental problems that he actually had, I wouldn't have stayed as long as because I thought when I did my grievances, and when administration came down, hard on him, because he was making bad decisions. He was going over the human resources department, the guy that was in charge of hospital policies, and stuff. And so, yeah, okay, I didn't get to that. So, I mean, we have our departmental meeting every 2 or 3 months. I was in charge. Eventually, he put me in charge of, because he would talk for 2 hours, telling all of us how great he was, and all the things that he was going to do, which the hospital never let him do. One meeting would be, we'd have it every 2 or 3 months. Okay, we're going to be getting these cards that when you walk to a door, it automatically unlocks, because you've got this card on you, not just security, but even nurses and everybody, if that was your unit, and, and so then I explained to him at some point after, I don't know how long, you're just talking to us about what you want to do, and he said, "I'm going to get this done," And he said, "Okay, well, you'll be in charge of the training." And I said, "Okay." So then I arranged for, which I don't think they were really supposed to do. So it was kind of like I arranged for an instructor to come who taught at the police academy to come out and this was a subject, and I figured he'd have an hour, and Mr. Ross talked for an hour and 45 minutes, which left 15 minutes for this guy to do his thing. So then after the thing was over, I went to Mr. Ross and I said, "This isn't going to work." And he said, I said, "Because you're telling all the things that you're going to do, and I said, do you want to do training, or you just want to give up on it and tell us how great you are?" And he said, "No, Jim, you're in charge." And I said, "Okay, well, you've got 15 minutes from now on. Unless something unusual, comes up, and something special, unusual, a new thing that we all need to know about, or something, a new policy or something." He says, "Okay." So a few months later, we have our meeting, and he talked for 15 minutes, and then he said, "I'm sorry, I know you guys want to hear more from me, but Jim only gives me 15 minutes to talk." And so then, of course, I had a guy from the, police academy do the presentation. But that was something else. If I had only known, well, I would have also been different if I'd have known I thought I was dealing with a smart guy, but why does he do these things? But if I'd have realized there's nothing I can do because, look, the American people have tried to tell Donald Trump, Republicans have tried to tell Donald, well, they gave up, I mean, the guy is mentally ill and super stupid on top of that. So, I think I told my story. I guess I don't think you're going to be too super. I kind of want to tell about the Lutheran priest. But on the other hand, I don't. Not that it would, not that it would get back to, I mean, he committed suicide after I left Trinity Hospital. He was working as a parking lot attendant, and he committed suicide, and I feel bad about it. My wife, when I was married, and she divorced me about the time I was working at Trinity. No, slightly after that. Yeah. Oh, anyway, quite a while after that, to come to think of it. But when she was in her moods or whatever, if she was upset and mad, I did what was necessary to, bring her down. And then when she was the other way, I stood on my head or did whatever I had to do to bring her up. And I was, that wasn't good. That was stupid of me. So, anyway, this Lutheran minister, he was still working at, I had quit, and he was still working at Trinity. And he called me. Several things happened, not with him, but several other things have happened. And then I thought that things that I needed to do, but I couldn't because of the wife at the time. And I had to be there, and so anyway, he called me. Now, the Lutheran Church, man, that Coke got hot. Okay, I need some Coke here in a little bit. The church told him he could go back to his fancy parish. They didn't say, he could go back there. But he had to, and he could divorce his wife, which surprised me. He could divorce her and he could go back, but he could not be back at his church and be how would I put, anyway, so anyway, he didn't have a car. He lived close to, once a year, the bishop from Chicago, no, St. Louis, I think it was. Now my mind is going. Oh yeah, Chicago because of the lake or whatever, and the expensive. So he didn't have a car, and he called me at home and said, "Hey Jim, I'm going to be giving the service at the Lutheran Hospital, close to where I lived, and everything. And I'm not sure now. I think I want to forget, He said, I'd like to have you come, this Sunday or whatever. And I said, well, I can't make it. And so he went and did the service. And Shortly after that, his family, who did not know what was going on, I don't think his family even knew what was going on. He lived very close to Trinity Lutheran Hospital, a bad neighborhood. There were apartments over the hospital didn't own the apartments, but there were apartments over there that, you know, cockroaches and everything else, and he didn't really care how he was, you know, living. He was, once a year, the bishop from Chicago would come and he'd say, Jim, because I was the supervisor, you know, Jim, I need to be relieved. The bishop is going to say, yeah, go, you know. And then he'd come back and everything. Anyway, his family and how they could not know what was going on, and how, if they had an idea what was, and they must have known him, how he was, or what, how, you know, proud and everything. And that must have been horrible for him. They showed up unannounced, I guess from Chicago. I guess they had his address, you know, so they could, you know, maybe they were writing to him and stuff like that, and they showed up. And he never missed a day's work, and I wasn't working there anymore, but he didn't come into work, and security called him, or probably the security secretary tried to call, no answer, and so they sent a security officer over, and he'd hung himself. Okay, I need a Coke. I'm not sure I should have even told any of this in this video. Sort of a three-parter. I think I should definitely have left the last part out. But it's a regret that I have. And anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you're looking for a religion, you know, Unity Village is probably a good one. Anyway, thank you very much.